PI Perspectives.
Today I want to talk to you about the Investigator's Toolbox. Many of the folks who listen to this program actually have already signed up and have joined this online community for investigators and the investigative community. It's a place to go for networking. It's a place to go for continuing education, watching webinars, doing your continuing education credit. It's a place also to read up on the latest trends in the industry, stay on top of all the news articles. It's actually supported by some really, really great businesses that support our industry. They're offering discounts and benefits actually for your membership. And then the OSINT catalog. We got a huge OSINT catalog that you can make your own private library. You essentially pick and choose what you want to be in your library, however you do your research. Check it out today. It's www.investigators-toolbox.com. Listeners of the show, if you use the code PIP201836, you'll save an extra 20%. Investigators-toolbox.com. Go check it out today.
Are you overwhelmed with your current caseload? Could you use some help with your skip trace assignments? With Merlin Locate Services, rather than adding staff, you can add an entire skip trace department of licensed private investigators who specialize in skip tracing. Check out merlinlocate.com today. When you work with Merlin Locate Services, you bring on a valuable experience and trusted extension to your team. Welcome to PI Perspectives. Today we focus on the NALI conference scheduled for February 19th. We welcome George Gergis back to tell us all about the conference and what to expect. NALI, or the National Association of Legal Investigators, is the premier association if you do legal investigative work. This one-day conference is packed with great content. Even some guy who hosts a podcast show will talk about the methodology of accident site investigation photography. So please welcome George back to the podcast and your host and NALI speaker, Matt Spaier.
And welcome everybody to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. Well, today we're going back to an old friend of ours. I asked George Gergis to come in and talk about the NALI conference that's taking place on February 19th. So George, I want to welcome you back to the program. How are you?
Matt, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Before we start, I just want to take a moment and just congratulate you on the success of your podcast. It's been, I think you're approaching close to 100 episodes or just short of 100 episodes. And, when you were talking about investigation competency, the only way to get competent is through education, training, and experience. And even after so many years, listening to your podcast still offers me some information that's very helpful. And I want to thank you for doing what you do. And I support your podcast and your endeavors 100%. And I'm so happy that you've been so successful with it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. And the numbers are really started to jump when I had that guest George Gergis on. That was the genesis for it just exploding. People could not get enough. The emails and responses I got, they said more George. So here you are today, more George.
Here I am. Everybody needs a little George in their life.
Exactly. I miss my George in my life because we don't have any live events. That's really the only time that I get to hang out with you. So tell me what's been going on? What have you been doing this past year?
Well, we got through the holidays really good. Things kind of slowed down, COVID and the holidays, it kind of slowed down. It gave us a break to focus and concentrate on our families and kind of gear up for what's going to happen for 2021. And then, beginning of the year happened and somebody turned down the faucet and all these cases start coming in again. Right. That's the one good thing about our business is no matter what's happening with the economy, no matter what's happening with the political atmosphere, whether things are good or bad, we're always in need. People are always looking for truth finders, fact finders, and this is what we do. And we're kind of fortunate to be in a business that's kind of recession proof. Now you got to adjust. You got to make it. You got to pivot to the crisis or the events that are happening in the world. But our skills, research skills, finding people, talking to people, getting information, gathering information, analyzing information, documenting that. Those skills are always going to be in need, no matter what's going on. And
You're right.
so yeah, it's going pretty good, man.
Good. So I think, you brought some good points here. I think if you're an investigator and you're out on your own, you just started your own business and you're struggling, or maybe you've been in business for a bit, and this past year has really kicked you in the pants, and you're struggling, saying, hey, how am I going to keep the lights on here? What am I doing? The key word is pivot. The key word is identifying, and it may be a little bit uncomfortable doing things that you're not used to doing, or trying to sell a service that you're not used to doing, but you have to consider it, because it's, you're in the fight or flight stage here of just trying to make it through. And I think those that have done that pivot and made that move are succeeding. And one of the other things to do in these times is really to work on your skill set and becoming a better investigator. And that's one of the reasons that we had asked, where we talked about having you come on today, is this great conference that is taking place from NALI, National Association of Legal Investigators, next month in February. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But it is things like that that get you over the hump through these times here. So what was your pivot this past year? What did you see yourself doing more of that you didn't think you'd be doing?
It turned out to be more, what we had a hindrance with is face-to-face contacts,
Right.
because of the COVID. Courthouses were shutting down. You couldn't get in there. So we pivoted a little bit with technology, and we made adjustments on how we contact people, and increased our skill level of trying to get interviews over the phone. We got our own Zoom accounts, so we can actually have people do interviews over Zoom if it made them feel comfortable. And people are becoming more and more comfortable with the technology. It's a little bit difficult, but you have to adjust with that. The research obviously went up because you're doing more and more research, because you're not doing face-to-face contacts. And then when you are doing face-to-face contacts, you are making that initial contact so you can set up a telephonic or virtual contact with them if people don't feel comfortable. So, but there are people that, you do what you got to do. In the summertime, it wasn't as bad because we can do a lot of the face-to-face contacts on the outside. But up here in the Midwest, in the winter, it gets kind of cold, and we don't want to go into people's homes if we don't have to.
Absolutely.
And people don't want us in their homes if they don't have to have us in there. And everybody's a little bit uncomfortable. And then it's hard to do an interview when it's 27 degrees outside on somebody's front porch.
Right.
So we set up a little bit different process of getting those interviews, because a lot of what we do is interviews. However, you have to increase your skill level at building up that rapport, because as you know, as every investigator knows, you may not get another chance to talk to that person after the initial contact. And it's always been an unwritten rule: get as much information as you can during that initial contact. Well, COVID's kind of flipped that around a little bit, where you
made it more difficult. Absolutely.
So you have to use that initial contact to build up that rapport, so you can ensure that you have a secondary contact so you can gather that information. So adjusting your skill level is more than what we pivoted as far as business. Business, people are still getting into car accidents. People are still committing crimes. People are still committing insurance fraud. People are still worried about, who's going to get their child when they get through a divorce. So all that stuff, as legal investigators, the legal process doesn't stop. It just slows down a little bit, and it actually gives us breathing time to do a better job in the investigation. So we've been concentrating on that. When it came to criminal cases, and this is something that I've talked to with a lot of my attorney clients, prosecutors are more apt to give you a good plea deal because of all the pressures put onto the court system. So
Absolutely.
take advantage of that.
Yep.
And the way you take advantage of it is by doing a good, thorough investigation and giving the prosecutors a good reason to give you a good plea,
Right.
whether it's a mitigation investigation or fact-finding investigation. So, and then same thing with car accidents. I've noticed that the number of accidents have gone down, but I've noticed a lot more serious accidents,
Yeah, you're absolutely
which
right.
which
Absolutely.
which people, I don't know, people are going crazy. They're
No,
just
they're
driving
driving
nuts. Yeah,
faster. Yeah,
yeah,
I noticed in New York City, anyways, a lot of pedestrian knockdowns with heavy injuries, bicyclist knockdowns. Just the roads were more, less traffic, but people driving super fast and really like, hey, the cop's not going to pull me over. He doesn't want to get COVID. I'm just going to drive like an idiot. Like that. That really has been happening. I think you brought up some good points with regards to changing the style or the pre-interview techniques, because that's something that we definitely have adapted on my end too. Like really trying to get the meat of that meeting to be done either via Zoom or over the phone, capturing whatever you need to capture, and then scheduling that appointment where that appointment takes literally 5 minutes. Here you go. I prepared it, read it over. Let's cover a couple follow-up questions. If we got to add anything, we got to change anything, let's throw it in here, assign it. You go your way, I go my way, we're done. Trying to limit the exposure that the field investigator has to other people. It's a real factor. It's something that you have to, put into place to keep your people safe. I know one of the big problems we're still having here, and I don't see it ending anytime soon, is hospital visits. It's not
yeah.
happening, and in my business, what I do, it's major injuries that, people are in the hospital and they're not getting out of the hospital anytime soon. And I can't get in there to see them. So you've got the option of, okay, let's try and do it electronically, hopefully they have their phone there and they understand it, but sometimes they don't. Or maybe they're an elderly person that, they have a jitterbug. They don't have, internet service. They don't know what they're doing. And now you're looping in social workers and you're relying on family members. And, you have to be a little creative these days on getting that stuff done, but it's definitely something, we talked about pivoting, and that's really what we've been doing. So, yeah, those who pivot succeed and move forward, and those who don't twiddle their thumbs and just sit around waiting for things to come to them. And that's not a way to run a small business, right?
Yeah. A good friend of mine once said the only thing that is constant is change. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to change if you want to keep growing, or else if you don't change, you die. And
Yeah.
but with the times, and that's one of the things with what we do is we're continuously learning. You have to continuously learn, or else you don't change and you end up dying. We're not. I've been doing this for close to 30 years, since 1990, and obviously the techniques that were used back in the 90s are not used today.
Yeah.
Even the equipment that's available to us today and the resources were never available to us back then. But the meat of what we do, identifying information, gathering information, analyzing information, documenting it, reporting it, and preserving it and testifying in court. This is the stuff that the investigative events we've been doing for 30 years. It doesn't change. We just change the way we do it. And we have to be able to adapt, or else, we don't, we're not with a horse and buggy anymore,
Yeah.
So
And,
we adjust to it.
we've been given this fantastic gift of virtual conferences, where we don't have to travel and we can actually get that education, and get those certifications that some of us or most of us need to maintain our license and things like that. And that is the silver lining, I guess, and through all this nonsense. So okay, so we're going to jump out. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the conference. I want to talk about some of the speakers and some of the benefits, and the value. There's incredible value in this conference. And I'm not just saying that because I'm one of the speakers, but it's good stuff. So everybody sit tight and we will be right back.
PI Perspectives.
Are you using a case management system? The answer is no. You should really rethink that process. Right. So as you guys know, Crosstracks has been an amazing sponsor of the show. They've just been really supportive. As you guys also know, I didn't used to have a case management system. I was the investigator that was fighting them tooth and nail. I finally decided to give it a whirl. What a great decision, right? During the COVID shutdown, I was able to actually roll my whole business into it and get completely up and running. And my clients love it. I mean, just today, I got a phone call from a client of mine who just couldn't believe how easy it was to access everything and how invoices were there. He actually asked me to go back and upload all my prior cases and put it into Crosstracks. I've been doing business with that firm for, I don't know, about 8 years, so it's a lot of cases. Yeah, if you don't use a case management system, you should, right? You should check it out. Give Crosstracks a shot. Contact Brad or one of the teammates over there, and they'll get you up and running with a trial and see if it's for you. If you have used Crosstracks and it's been a while and you're not happy with the system that you're in, go check them out. They're doing a lot of really cool new things, and see if it's right for you. If you're unhappy with the system that you're in right now, contact them. You know, the ability for them to roll your system into their system is very easy. Again, you guys know they've been sponsoring this program, and I can't say enough good things about them, but make your own decision, right? Give it a shot on your own and see if it's right for you.
Delftpoint keeps on advancing. The commonality search is here. The new data is unlike anything they currently offer and will go in depth into your target's assets and relationships. Use them on everything from jury research and associate connections to business investigations and fraud cases. You don't want to miss these. Visit delftpoint.com for more details. Sign up and use code PIP20 for additional savings. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the Investigators Toolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Want to stay on top of what's going on in our industry? NCISS is offering a free town hall meeting on February 10th at 12 p.m. Central Time to all investigative and security professionals to update you on some legislative issues. If you're a PI or in the security field, you should attend. These issues will affect our industry and how we do business. You can get more information at nciss.org.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today we're joined by George Gergis. George, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for 1 second, I thought we were actually having our annual Hair Club for Men conference here, you and I. But we're actually talking about NALI today. And if you're listening to the podcast, you're like, what is this guy saying? But if you're watching YouTube, you're laughing a little bit. So
yeah, bald is beautiful, Matt.
Exactly.
Don't let anybody tell you differently.
Exactly. In the cold weather, our heads get cold, but that's another story for another day. Okay, so let's talk NALI. So I had the opportunity to go to the last live NALI conference in January of last year down in Tampa. And that was actually my first NALI conference. I had joined NALI the year prior, and I missed Philadelphia because I had an event that day. I was actually recording an album that day, so I couldn't make it. But wow, I was so impressed by the event, the speakers there. I was impressed by just the camaraderie of everybody. And listen, we have our conference folks, the same folks that go to pretty much everything, but this was a little more extended. I definitely had the opportunity to meet people I'd never met before, and I just keep going back to that night that we all went out to dinner. I mean, it was like 40 of us at a steakhouse, maybe 45. It was crazy how we took over this place, and it was so much fun. And George, we made a deal that night. You joined the New York Association, and I joined InSpy. So we broke bread and cut a deal that night. It was pretty amazing.
Yep.
It was really,
Uh,
really impressive and a good time. What was your take on that experience?
I can't wait to do it again. I love the midwinter conferences that NALI puts together. One of the reasons is it's always in a nice weather area, and you can get away from the cold and just get away from the snow of the north. For a lot of our colleagues that are living in the Sun Belt don't understand this, but
Right.
it does help us, kind of like re-energize physically when we do that, and it the the educational programs that NALI puts together are, next to none. You're always going to learn something there, and I don't care how experienced you are. NALI is great at putting in these educational programs together. I can't wait. Hopefully next year we'll have a midwinter conference somewhere that's going to be in a nice warm weather, so I can get away from the Midwest for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know that we're shooting and hoping that we're capable of doing it our annual conference, which would be like towards the end of June
Mhm.
in San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
Uh, but for this winter, since we're dealing with so many stressors and so much anxiety with the pandemic, we're not doing an in-person conference, but we trying to do the best we can by bringing it straight to everybody in their home state. So all you got to do is, if you've ever wanted to go to a midwinter conference and for some reason you couldn't travel, or there was, people had their kids in school, or this is an opportunity to actually do the midwinter conference there's no excuse not to attend.
Yeah.
It's going to be right there at your home. All you got to do is to turn on your laptop and, um, I had a colleague from Florida mention it to me because I said something about the weather. I'm going to miss the weather this year, and he kind of like rubbed it in and said that he was going to take his laptop down to the beach and do the conference while he's
Don't
at
get
the
sand in
beach.
his keyboard. Pox on your house, sir.
so, so maybe I'll take my laptop outside so I can let him see the snow that we have up here.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can throw your heater on to about 75 in your office, throw on a pair of shorts, a Hawaiian shirt, and look, you're in Florida. Fantastic.
Yeah. But NALI's been around for about 50 plus years.
Yeah.
It's the oldest it's the National Association of Legal Investigators.
Mhm.
If you do any type of legal investigations, you should be a member of NALI. It's not an association where you can just join. You have to go through a vetting process.
Big vetting process.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and you have to demonstrate a level of competency before you get on there, and that's one of the things that's made NALI such a success.
Yeah.
Some people are, I don't want to go through the vetting process. I think I'm good. I still do good enough, or what have you. But taking a rag and putting it around a piece of metal creates a shank. It's not a sword. If you want a sword, you got to put it through a vetting process. You got to put it through a steel, and you got to pound it. And that's what we do. We got to make sure that the people that join NALI have been vetted, and that's one of the reasons that NALI is so successful. People say, you run an agency in the Midwest, but I always say I have over 500 colleagues all over the United States that I know that I could count on, that are vetted, and my NALI list of investigators is my Rolodex. If I
Yep.
need somebody anywhere, if a NALI member can't help me, nobody else can help me, because they're typically the top enchilada of what we do in legal investigations.
Absolutely.
So,
And the listserv on there is a great, great resource. I've never met so many people so willing to help.
yeah.
That when you throw
Well,
a question out there, it's not the same people that are just giving you answers to things. It's people from all over the place. In fact, I threw out a question the other day, and I ended up meeting a new investigator I had never met before, a guy from Kansas City, and we were just he answered my question. We were just chatting a bit, and he started talking about workplace violence investigations. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. We should do a podcast episode on that. And now he's going to be a guest on the show.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, it's pretty, shout out to Kent. So it was amazing. And I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, and that's definitely one of the benefits. And there is a real prestige behind it. And there are a lot of great associations out there. But man, when you talk about NALI and the events that NALI puts together, and the quality of the content is really there, man. I was so impressed. I walked away from that Tampa thing like, wow, like this is something I really want to get involved with. I had a ball. It was just, it was great to kick back with people that are the best of the best in the business, and really deserve to be there. And what's funny too is, like, if you want to speak there, if you want to be a part of it, like, you can't just throw a shoddy presentation together. You basically have to pitch it, and if it's too sales pitchy, they're like,
Yeah.
nope, not going to happen. And there's that high standard of what's expected. So let's talk about the lineup a little bit for this event. It is a one-day event, and I kind of like it starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time, and it's done by 5. So it's very compact with a lot of content. So TLO is involved, which is amazing. They did a great presentation on using TLO, because I think pretty much most of us have at least have a TLO account, or had a TLO account at one point. Understanding how to use it and making sure you're getting the most out of your money, because you get your account, you go on, you try and do your research of what you can do, but there's actually so much more you can do that you don't even realize. So Alec Ragsdale is coming in, and he's going to talk about using TLO, just going beyond the basics, and just refreshing everybody. And that is a don't miss presentation, like really good stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to data research and gathering the information, and I tell this to like the investigators that work for us too, I could get any monkey to punch in a button and spit out a report. But how do you analyze that report? How you work with that report? That's the investigative event. That's the skill that we have as investigators. And Alex is going to go through some of the stuff that you can do and mix in as you're getting the information to help you analyze that information. Kind of like when somebody takes an X-ray, the person is capable of taking that picture. It's not that difficult to set up a machine and take a picture, but to actually read it and analyze it, and to give you a diagnosis of what you need to do next, it takes skill. And we're not born with that skill. And I think Alex is going to do a really good job pointing us in that direction.
Sure.
So we're excited to have him, and we're excited to have TLO as a sponsor for the event. So they're sponsoring the event, and so yeah, Alex, I'm looking forward to that presentation.
Definitely. And also next up we got Eddie, right? Eddie Ajob, who was I think he was the first guest on my show. Eddie's
was he really?
Yeah, I think he was number one. So what I love about Eddie is he's the future of this industry, right? Guys that really dig into the whole tech side of things, and he's very methodical on how he approaches his research. I've used him as a sub, right, to do research for me, and he's done a great job. His reports are awesome. The way he kind of puts the methodology on his investigations together, and he's at the forefront. Anytime there's new tech out there, Scope Now is giving a how to research Gab, which is something they did this week, and there's Eddie in the room. He's there, and he's staying on top of the stuff. So not only is he running his business, he's actually doing the research, and he's following up and doing things. So I'm very excited to hear Eddie talk about social media research and just going beyond the initial research that you and I know how to do, and taking things a step further, because I know he's definitely going to be prepared in doing
that. Yeah, Eddie's a great guy. Yeah. I've worked with Eddie personally, with the same way I farmed out a lot of cases to him. Yeah. He does an excellent job clients, attorneys, corporations that I referred to him, they're happy. That's what you want from somebody that you refer, to make sure that your clients are happy. And he does a great job. We just did a case with him where uh, we had a corporation that was attacked by somebody who was cyberbullying their people, and actually uh, working with Eddie, he ended up putting together a presentation to offer all the employees for that corporation how to protect their social media and things like of that. So even if you think outside the box, he's the when it comes to social media gathering information, he's the guy. And I think this presentation uh, is gonna lead. If people aren't doing, even if they're not doing their own social media, this is their gateway, their exposure into the future. Because like you said, digital investigations, they are going to be the future of what we do.
Yeah, I mean, the future is here already. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a real opportunity, yeah, to make a living doing that type of work, especially when you talk about pivoting, going back to what we were saying earlier. This is where you want to be now. If you can't be out in the
Yeah.
field, you need to be in the trenches online, learning how to actually do that type of work. And Eddie's a really great starting point on that. And then, wow, next up, Kitty Haley. I mean, wow, Kitty has been around for forever. And when she talks about ethics, you must listen because she's literally wrote several books on it. And it would say she's at the forefront of being the authoritative voice on that stuff.
Yeah, I think Kitty's going to do a little bit about online ethics because, like we said, we're pivoting into a whole different arena, and it's like, what do we do? It's like there's a lot of questions. What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? Uh, so, and Kitty, she's the rock that lets us all keeps us all grounded as far as the ethics go. So
Sure.
it's awesome to have her on there, and
Yeah.
we appreciate her being there.
Yeah, and then there's some like Joker clown that comes up after that. Some guy named Matt Spaier. I don't know who he is.
Matt Spaier.
Allegedly, somebody let him on the podium. I don't know why.
Give Matt Spaier a camera and send him out, and he will come back with the evidence you need.
Yeah.
So, and we talked a little bit about this before we started. It's not everybody's born knowing what to do when they go to an accident investigation.
Yeah.
And what to look for, and I think having that guidance is going to be great. And I know that you do a lot of car accidents and a lot of liability type cases.
Yeah.
So we're happy to have you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this presentation. So I have been trained by a photography expert, somebody who's been in the field for pushing 40 years. And it's literally all he does. And when I first started my business, actually, I met him before I started my business. And he was one of the reasons that I actually went into business, because I knew I'd get a revenue stream from him. He trained me how to look at things and really take an approach as to what a juror needs to see and understanding that. So we're going to cover that. We're going to cover accident scene photography, both for car accidents and for slip and fall and construction type cases. The things to look for, and just the simple questions that are asked, how to and what's the methodology or approach you should be taking to doing this type of work. So yeah, I'm very excited and honored actually to be a part of the speaker rotation here. I'm very humbled actually to be included with it, because I think there's some great names here. Next up after that is Kevin Ripa, who's talking about digital forensics, which I think is in this world, we're talking about pivoting. It's right in front of us, right?
We have to keep, like we said, the future is digital, it's social media. There's always going to be a skill for a good interviewer, for a good researcher, but researching is changing. Gathering information is changing. We have to be aware. I don't care if you personally don't do cellular forensics or computer forensics, you have to be aware of the techniques of what's going on. Kevin is like top in his field, and giving us exposure to that is like awesome. And it's a must for every investigator to know, just to be able to speak competently to your to your clients about it if you don't personally do it.
Right. Right. And there's no better way to close the conference than having Kelly Riddle come on. Kelly, wow, the Godfather.
Yeah.
really, really. I mean, he's done a little bit of everything and knows so much about everything. If you don't know who Kelly Riddle is, you really need to look into that and hear what he's got to say, because I know I first met him in person at the NALI conference in January. You know, I'd heard about him. I've read his work, but I never actually physically met him. When I met him, I was like, wow, we instantly hit it off. And I'm like, this is somebody I want to be around. This is somebody I want to talk to on a regular basis and just run things off of. You know, when you're talking about, you know, growing your business, because he's there, right? And staying around and staying in business. I mean, that's really what he's talking about, right? How do you survive in the age of COVID? You know, this is a guy that has a big operation that has lots of you know, lots of people to be concerned about in his organization, making sure that they're staying in business and doing their things. And you know, he'll talk on the smaller matters too, of the, you know, having a small business and the things that you need to do, because we're not quite out of the woods yet on this stuff. And then Dale Dorning obviously will come in and close the day for us. So this event, I love the name of it, right? Investigative techniques, jumping ahead of the pack, and really that is what NALI allows you to do.
Yeah.
You know, it allows
one thing about Kelly, and just so I jump in here for a second,
Yep.
you know, speaking about COVID, we have to speak about COVID after, you know, the world was affected by it. So we thought we needed to do a presentation on COVID, and it really wasn't, you know, it's surviving business survival in the age of COVID. COVID has divided a lot of us,
Right.
but it's because we all feel the same anxiety about it. We're just so many uncertain things. It affects everybody differently, and this anxiety of dealing with it is one of the greatest values that that NALI has been around, because you're not going through it alone. People have said, oh, I don't need this association this year, or I don't need to like there's nothing happening.
I'm not paying my dues this year. Yeah.
Yeah, things like that. But it's actually the opposite, because NALI has been almost like a support group for many of us, because we can call anybody and say, hey, how are things going over there? How are things going over in your neck of the woods? And it actually helps us get through the business. And I think that's what Kelly's going to offer here, is how do we deal with this anxiety a little bit? So I just wanted to mention that, because that was a topic that was a little bit controversial. Do we bring it in? It's been politicized or what have you, but it's a reality that we got to deal with it.
You can't ignore the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And I'm, you know, it's important that, you know, that stuff is addressed. And, you know, you brought up a good point, and I think it's interesting. I want to take it just a little step further, right? So COVID has divided us in person. You know, it's divided us that we don't have that face to face, but it actually has united us as well. If you look at the push for everything to go virtual, for the Zoom meetings and all, like nobody did any of that stuff. It was all this like talk of, hey, we should do that. Like, it wouldn't be cool if we could do that, right? You have to do it now. So
now everybody's an astronaut. We feel like we're like in NASA. Everybody's working in NASA.
Exactly. Right. You know, I had the opportunity to do Zoom or get introduced to Zoom like a year before COVID hit. So I wasn't a complete novice with it, but now it's just like, hey, yeah, whatever, jump on the Zoom. We got to do it. It's almost like I feel better talking to somebody on Zoom than I actually do on the phone, because that just having that face to face,
yes,
and you know, having that expression, I kind of enjoy it. But yeah, I guess it's so I can see the tells when someone's lying to me. It probably helps a little better.
Yeah. Because we're so used to doing face to face and watching people's body language. So when you're on the phone, you're so limited just to the tonality and the tone of voice to try to like read the person. So yeah, Zoom is great, you know, and you know, if you're recording a Zoom conversation, you know, there's nothing better for like an interview. Now you got like not only an audio tape, but you got a video tape that you can use as evidence too for an interview. So it is it's a great tool.
Yeah,
And
and it adds to your billable, right?
yeah,
it's not just an interview; it's a recorded interview. I'm going to charge you more for it.
I don't know about that. Depends what clients you have, I guess.
Exactly. So, all right. So let's give out the information for NALI. So it's www.nali.com. That's how you go and sign up for this thing. It's not free, but the cost is greatly reduced. Thank you to TLO for subsidizing that, right? I think we need to mention that. So it is a
Investigator's
Investigator's
Toolbox.
Toolbox too, by the way.
PI Magazine, Investigator's Toolbox.
Right. So our sponsors, thank you to them because they have subsidized the cost for this. So, and I'm sure it was a question back and forth: should we make it a free event or not? Because there are a bunch of associations that have done free events, but I kind of like that you guys didn't, because I feel the quality that you're getting here, like the speaker rotation here, it's impressive, and there's value to that, and people should want to make that investment in themselves to make themselves better, right?
That's correct. And NALI is it's a nonprofit organization, and it's although a lot of it is conducted by volunteers. I'm the assistant national director, and John LaJoy, who is the national director, he's worked really hard. A lot of the executive board members have worked really hard. The event to put together, Sam Petito out of Colorado, Dale Doring out of Ohio, Kelly Riddle out of Texas, Rory McMahon out of Florida, John LaJoy from Massachusetts, Val from Julian Val out of Michigan, who's the manager of NALI. Everybody's worked really hard and put in a lot of time, but to run an organization, a national association like NALI, isn't free. I mean, there's costs that are associated with it. So we're trying to keep the cost to the member as low as possible and still able to operate effectively and efficiently as a national association and be able to bring the programs that we have. So I think it's like $125, but if you're a member of NALI, you get a substantial discount to that. But even as an investigator, and you want to be exposed to this information, $125 for a conference material and the education that you're going to be exposed to is really a minimum cost for anybody.
It's a write-off.
Yeah,
it's a write-off. It's a no-brainer. This is your continuing education. So if you're a business owner, check with your accountant, but that's a line item for you to just check right off. And the value is there. You're definitely getting the bang for your buck. Absolutely. And it's just an amazing program. I'm very honored to be even included in being a part of that. It's a great opportunity. And folks, if you have not heard of NALI, go check it out. I mean, if you're an investigator, this is, and you do investigative work, you do like legal investigation for attorneys, like you have to be in this organization. Really, you don't know what you're missing. And it's funny you mentioned John LaJoy. His passion for NALI is it's pretty amazing. It's really impressive. You could get on a phone conversation with him, and it's 30 minutes later you're still talking about NALI. And that's just who John is, and it's amazing. It's very impressive, actually.
It's a great organization. I mean, as a legal investigator, we also excuse me, we also administer the Certified Legal Investigators certificate, which is a program that you become certified as a legal investigator. And you don't have to be a member to be a certified legal investigator, but it does. I don't know if there are any members, any CLIs that are not members, but that's a program, a testing program in itself that kind of like demonstrates the upper echelon of the legal investigator community. And this, and maybe there's a lot of investigators, but there's a difference between doing legal investigations and just doing general investigations. There's a purpose that what we do as legal investigators. So if you're doing investigations in anticipation of litigation for an attorney or for a law firms, or even if you're an in-house investigator, you should be a part of NALI, because the resources that are available are outstanding. You mentioned the listserv. I remember there was a question, somebody posed the question, and there was an answer. Somebody offered a utility for a management utility, and another member responded to the effect, this information alone is worth my membership due for the whole year. And it was only one piece of information. And this is something that's constantly going on listserv, on the NALI listserv daily. If you have a question, you need an expert, you have 500 people that you can, and I think there's 500, sometimes it's 600 members. I think we should have, several thousand. So let's get the ball rolling and if you're qualified as a legal investigator, you do over 50% of your work as an investigator for in anticipation of litigations, you should be applying for NALI today at NALI.com.
And George will send you a signed headshot if you do. Personalized headshot. There's value in that.
That's right. I'll sign it for you.
Going back to that comment about the listserv, I'll take it one step further. So not only was that question answered, there were multiple solutions that were given too. So it wasn't just like, oh, just go to this one site. It's like, no, you can go this one or you can go this one, and either one's going to get you what you need. One's free, one costs money. You decide what you want to do. That was amazing. And I grabbed both those and I put them on Investigator's Toolbox.
So, for you, man.
Yeah. And that's how I source that type of information, right? When I see something good on LinkedIn, or I see something, out there, that's a tool that could be resourceful, I'm going to scoop it right up and I'm going to put it in the toolbox, and we're going to, be cataloged and libraried. So you can go back and get it or bookmark it if it's something you're going to use. And that's the beautiful thing about the Investigator's Toolbox, is that people in the community are really sourcing the information, because they're giving it to me also. So I'm getting emails from current members that are submitting resources like that, but I'm also mining resources other places. And I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of resources that are in there already. So, all right, George, thank you so much for your time. We are encouraging everybody to jump ahead of the pack. What are you waiting for? Go sign up, www.nali.com. Go check it out. I am a big believer in this conference and the content that you'll get. I would say you probably, there's no better way to spend February 19th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. than attending this conference. So George, how do folks get a hold of you if they want to take you up on getting that headshot?
Oh, I'm in South Bend, Indiana. I actually run a little agency, investigative support unit. Investigativasupport.net is our website. But what's more important than getting a hold of me is you go to NALI. And if you go to NALI and you need somebody in South Bend, all you got to do is go to the directory and you'll see that I'm on there and all my contact information. So at NALI.com, under the directory, there's hundreds of investigators, and there's somebody in the area that you want to help with. There's going to be somebody in that state, in that area. So and they're all vetted before they get on that list. So
that's good, except you. For some reason, they let you in. It's all good. So I knew
you. I knew you.
So, by association. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's always great catching up with George. It's always an easy conversation. The time absolutely flew by. Hopefully people are still listening and haven't turned off, but
thanks for having me, man.
For tuning in. And I did want to mention also, if you do attend the NALI conference, we're going to be giving away 3 free memberships to the Investigator's Toolbox to 3 lucky attendees. So another incentive, another reason to go sign up. Potentially you could get in and win a free membership. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch everybody on the next show. Take care.
Wrapping it up, it's always a great time catching up with George. We encourage you to check out this amazing conference. You do not need to be an NALI member to join. Each presentation will absolutely help you become a better investigator, and it's worth the investment. And you'll have some fun. We also want to thank Crosstracks, Merlin Locate Services, Delftpoint, and the PI Institute for Education for sponsoring the show. Now, have you checked out investigatorstoolbox.com yet? Remember, it only takes 49 cents a day to unlock the future of investigations, so make an investment in your business and yourself today. The legacy discount's done, but you can still save some money. Use code PIP20, 1836 to save an extra $20. If you have a question or comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. We'll be back on Monday with a new show, so make sure you tune in. Please wear a mask and stay safe out there.